What is going on, and welcome back to another episode of Real and Raw. As always, I'm your host, John Marrone, and it is February. That is right. It is February, and I'm sure you guys are feeling January went by really quick. Well, just to let you know, February is going to go by just as quick, if not quicker, because there's also less days in February. If you have not properly prepared yourself and intentionally set a plan, not just a goal, but a plan and commitments behind that goal for February, please, as soon as you're off this call, go do that. You do not want the month to start to go, things start to happen, right? You start to get distracted, and all of a sudden you look at it and it's February 15th, February 16th, and you haven't set any goals or any intentions and commitments behind those goals. With this week, we just did a call for a real estate mastery coaching clients. And one thing we talked about was, first thing we talked about actually was SOI and past clients, and how to go ahead and actually create a system, not just go ahead and on a whim, oh my God, I got to send something, it's Christmas, but actually have a 12-month system and process to scale it. And so we gave them tools, resources, and services. And then obviously done for you. We do all the emails for our clients. We did text messages, and they can just plug and play it in as long as they make some of the small changes. As I always tell them, make it custom to your market. So we talked about that. But what we also talked about, and what I'm trying to get to, is we talked about properly and intentionally creating a plan for every single month. So we have this worksheet that we go through where it asks you specific questions for each area of life, right? Your health, your personal, your spiritual, your business, your finances, and obviously, your relationships. And so driving questions, not just what's the goal, but hey, what's the commitment? Hey, what are the action steps behind these commitments? Hey, who do you need to talk to help you with these goals? And then habits, right? What habits are you trying to kill? What habits are you trying to create? But nevertheless, guys, if you have not done that yet, please take some time out today to do that. You do not want February 15th, 16th, 17th to come up and you'd be like, oh my God, where is the month gone? And you realize you're nowhere near where you wanted to be in your goals, or you're just unclear of what your goals were in the first place. So make sure you go ahead and you set your goals properly. But it kind of goes into what I want to talk about today. I didn't even know it's going to, but it does, right? So we all got news, the breaking news, this news that was earth-shattering, that shook people to the core. That news was that the GOAT is actually really retiring. So we think. We'll see if he comes back. But the GOAT, the man himself, Tom fucking Brady. Tom Brady is officially retiring for like the second or fifth or 100th. I don't know how many times he's retired. But he's actually retiring. So he said this time it's going to be real. He's done. Now, if you don't watch sports, don't tune out of this podcast. Do not tune out of this podcast. I'm going to give you some stats and stuff like that. We're going to go into it, but this is not just about Tom Brady in sports. But if you are trying to make more money this year, okay, need you to listen to this podcast, okay? You're trying to make more money this year, which I'm sure you are. We all are. You need to listen to this podcast. And if you're somebody who's not into football, I'm using this as an analogy, and I'm pretty damn sure you could pick up what I'm putting down. So Tom Brady, I got my little handy dandy notebook in front of me. Let's see. Let's look at this man's records, okay? So first off, he has over 35 NFL records. I get it. He's played for an eternity, so that helps with the process. But let's look at some of these records that the GOAT, Tom Brady, has in the NFL. Most games started. Well, you should have most games started if you played for 300 years, right? But actually, there's a reason for that, though. Most wins, most passing yards, most touchdowns, most completions, most Super Bowl appearances. He's also beat every single team in the NFL. He beat every team in the NFL. Side note, the Dallas Cowboys were his last team that he played, and we beat him. It's one time we beat him out of 7, but we beat him. And then the other one was Super Bowl wins. Tom Brady has not 3, not 4, Not 5, not 6, but 7 Super Bowl wins. Do you guys know that's more than any franchise? This man has more Super Bowl wins than any NFL team's franchise. What an incredible career. Let's give it up for those results. Let's give it up for all those records. Let's give it up for the amazing things that he's done for the NFL. But here's what I need you to take a look at. Because as you're cheering, wow, this Tom Brady, way to go ahead and have a phenomenal career. Look at all your wins. Look at all your results. What we tend to not celebrate is what it took to get those wins, what it took to get those results. We always celebrate the glory, and we always tend to forget the story. We tend to always get so excited about the wins. I mean, even you probably listening, you get excited when you lost that weight. You got excited when you set that appointment. But that's not the win. The win is prior. The wins are the things that you had to overcome to get there. The win is the discipline that you, Tom Brady, even had to have to get there. Tom Brady won 7 Super Bowls not because he was the most talented player out there. He became the most talented player out there because of the work ethic he put in before Sunday showed up. Before Sunday showed up. And it really gets me thinking, and I talk about this when I do a lot of my conversion days or I do a lot of speaking engagements, of like, we all have somebody in our life that we look up to because of their results. And it's a shame that we don't look up to them on a consistent basis because of how they got those results, right? Yes, we know, but we always celebrate these accolades, even in your own life. But the accolades, it's a byproduct to the work you put in. The championship team is only a championship team because they practice like one, right? The champion only is a champion because he and she practices like one. So a lot of people saying, John, man, I want to get better on the phones. John, man, I want to get better at my job. John, man, I want to get better at my career. I want to make more money. But yet you're not willing to have the discipline. You're not willing to put the work in before the lights go on Sunday. Right? Like, think about it. Tom Brady's the GOAT. Everybody knows him. They saw what he did in the NFL. Every single record he basically shattered. 7 Super Bowls. But that is not what you need to look at. That is not what you need to celebrate. It's all the adversity that man had to overcome, from getting, drafted, I think it was in his 6th round, to being a backup to a phenomenal quarterback and everybody doubting his skills, to defying age and only getting better and stronger with his age, to taking a team that on paper didn't look like they had a shot to win a Super Bowl and go win several with them. And it's because of the work ethic prior. And too many of you guys are skipping that. You want these fast results. You want this instant gratification. You want the appointment set. You want the commission. You want the accolades. But you don't want to put the work in prior. And that's not going to work. And maybe it will once in a while because luck will strike. But if you want to create something that's scalable, 7 championships, something that's scalable, for us, a 33% conversion rate when you call a cold lead. When you want to create something scalable, you got to put in the practice prior. Something I always bring up on different speaking engagements or even coaching calls, I always bring this up. Hey, who here has kids? All right, so think about this. Do you have a kid? All right, raise your hand. If you're in your car or wherever you're at, raise your hand if you have a kid. Okay, if you don't have a kid, this is going to resonate with. So most of you guys know I have little Brixton, who's 1. I have a little beautiful Aria, who's 5.5. Which, by the way, going on a daddy-daughter dance tonight. So that's going to be fun. First time we did a daddy-daughter dance. We do dancing around the house and restaurants all the time, but this is like a legit daddy-daughter dance. But besides that, let's say your little boy, your little girl wanted to become the best at something. Let's use Brixton for a second. But think about your kid. He says, Dad, I want to be I want to be on varsity. I want to play football and play varsity. I said, okay. Are we going to tell that kid, listen, just show up on Friday Night Lights and you'll be good? No, we're going to tell that kid, you better practice, right? You're going to tell your kid, you better practice, whether it's a sport or it's a musical instrument or it's academics. You better practice. You better study. Okay, so let's talk about Brixton. He practices and he gets into varsity, and then he gets a D1 scholarship to hopefully the Florida Gators. Let's go. We need some help over there. And then he tells me, Dad, I made it. I'm in college. I got a full ride. What do I do next? What are we going to tell that kid? You better practice, right? And keep practicing, just like your kid. You better practice, keep practicing. So then Brixton goes ahead and he gets drafted to hopefully the Dallas Cowboys. Once again, we need some help, right? He gets drafted to the NFL. Or your kid gets drafted to the NFL. Or your kid gets the highest level achievement in whatever they're going after. And they say, Dad, Mom, I made it. Now what? What do you tell that kid? You tell that kid, you better keep practicing. So we're going to tell our kids to practice and put in the work in order to be the best. Yet you, the owner of your own business, won't do the same. How dare you ask your kids and the people you love around you to hold themselves to a standard that you're not willing to do so for your own company, for your own business? How dare you ask your kids to practice in order to be the best, yet you won't do that for your own business? When you're asking others to stand in a higher standard and you won't do the same for yourself, it comes off flat. It comes off unheard. And you wonder why nobody's holding themselves to a higher standard. It's because the reflection that you're putting off. So stop asking other people and your kids to hold themselves to a standard of practicing to be the best when you won't do so for your own business. I don't know if you needed to hear that today, but I hope you did, because when I look at real estate agents in general, and this is not even just agents, but like, let's just talk about that for a second. Out of every 100, only 2 to 3% of them are role playing on a daily basis. Guess what, though? Those 2 to 3%ers, they're the top 2 to 3%ers in their market. And there's a reason why. It is not a coincidence that every single time I do a speaking session, I ask who here role plays, and there's only 2 to 3% of them. And I ask, what do your numbers look like? That their numbers are the top of the class. Because their numbers, their appointments, their commission is directly proportionate to the work they put in. See, because it's what you do in the dark that helps you shine the brightest in the light. So stop telling me you want to make more money, you want to set more appointments, yet you are not willing to put the work in prior. Write this down. If you want to increase your pay, increase your role play. If you want to increase your pay, increase your role play. Stop finding every reason and excuse not to practice. I understand it could be awkward. I understand, like it's uncomfortable. Well, get comfortable being uncomfortable, because my friend, I'm here to tell you that's the first step. That's the first step. I don't have anybody to role play with. Well, guess what? You do. You probably have people in your office. You probably have a spouse, a friend. And even if you don't, you have you, and that is perfectly fine. My ISA sends me voice recordings of him doing the script every single day before he gets on the calls. He's doing it by himself and acting like there's another person on the other end of the phone, and acting like he's having a role play with an invisible person. But guess what? Every time he does that, like he just hit me at night. He goes, hey, I just went ahead and set 3 appointments. And guess what he did prior? I could show it to you. He sent me the recordings. Yesterday, he failed to send me recordings, yet he still got on the phones, even though I advised against it. And what happened? Goose egg. Goose egg. You'll still get goose eggs, though, by the way, even when you do go ahead and role play. You're still going to have days where you strike out and you don't have any appointments. But guys, look, Tom Brady, the Derek Jeters, the Michael Jordans, the Kobe Bryants, right? The Serena Venus Williams, right? The actors you look up to. These men and women have crazy, crazy accolades. They have crazy results. They're champions. But before they're a champion, they had to put in the work. And even when they became the champion, they continued that work. I don't care about your results as much as I care about, are you the hardest worker in the room? Are you practicing? Are you intentionally, like we talked about in February, have you gone ahead and planned your month out yet? If not, how do you expect to win? If you don't have a target, how do you expect to pivot? How do you expect to make better decisions? With no true target, there is no true understanding of what decisions are best for you. Tom Brady, he knew what the target was. He knew what the target was. The people you look up to that have these great, they knew what the target was, so then they can make better decisions. But they also practice better than anybody. So let's talk about the GOAT for a second. What does it mean, right? Greatest of all time. Greatest of all time. But I also have a little acronym I like to use for it, because as you guys know, every time you guys get out of here, I need you guys to have something to take action on. And I'm a nerd for acronyms. It helps me remember things. Okay? So what is the acronym for GOAT? To be the GOAT, you first must have grit. To be the GOAT, you next must have ownership in your actions and your results. To be the GOAT, you must have awareness. And to be the GOAT, you must train. So if you want to be the GOAT, I question you of, do you have grit? I question you, do you have complete ownership? 100% ownership of your effort, your execution, everything around you, or are you filled with excuses? So you say you want to be the GOAT, but do you have true awareness? Do you have a reflection moment? I'm talking about intentional reflection, so you can make faster changes. Hey, you say you want to be the GOAT. Are you training every single day to be the GOAT? Or you just think it's going to happen? So you want to be the greatest of all time? You want to be the GOAT? You better go ahead and tap into some grit. You better create massive ownership. You better have a really good sense of awareness. And you better train better than anybody and more often than anybody. And then you'll be the GOAT, the greatest of all time. I'll say it one more time. If you want to be the GOAT, the greatest of all time, you better get some grit. You better have some ownership in your actions and your efforts. You better go ahead and have awareness in everything you do on a consistent basis. And you better go ahead and train more often than anybody. You do that, and you could be the GOAT, the greatest of all time, in whatever it is you're trying to be the greatest of all time in. So, Tom Brady, will he come back is the real question here. Right? But that's it, guys. You know, today I just want to jam with you about that, because we celebrate people's wins way too much. And I don't mind. We can celebrate the hell out of their wins as long as we're celebrating the hell out of the adversity. Right? Because think about it. If you go in and you just make your X amount of dollars that you wanted to make this year, you're going to celebrate X amount of dollars. What I want you to celebrate is, overcoming fear. I want you to celebrate overcoming adversity. I want you to celebrate overcoming limiting beliefs. I want you to celebrate overcoming, doing it even though you didn't want to do it on many, many days. I want you to celebrate sacrifices you made. And let's go back. Where do you keep talking about a win that you've had or a win that you're in versus talking about what it took to get that win? And not telling necessarily even other people about that. That's fine. We could tell other people, but really enforcing into your brain of bro, every step that I overcame something, that was a win. Do you celebrate it in that moment? And that's the other side of things. If you're not celebrating these wins of overcoming, you're celebrating these wins of pushing through, celebrating the wins of doing the things you don't want to do when you know you need to do. If you're not celebrating those wins, your brain won't even understand how to go ahead and operate when you're in that moment again. So let your brain know, hell yeah, great job, way to push through. Hey, you got 10 no's today, way to go ahead and keep going and have a higher perspective. Hey, nobody wanted to role play, so you went ahead and you did it by yourself. Way to go, John. That is really the truth behind how you become the best at anything, whether it's real estate, sports, music. It does not matter. What do they say? 10,000 hours. 10,000 hours it takes to master your craft. And here's the crazy part. Think about this. How do you get really good at something, right? We practice, okay? And when you practice enough and you get really good at it, it becomes subconscious. People ask all the time, John, how long did it take you to get so good on stage or so good on the phones? How long? And to be honest with you, I don't know how long. All I know is I practice and I practice and I practice so much to where it became a part of me. The framework, the script, the energy, the speaking, it became a part of me. It was ingrained in me. I no longer have to think about it. I no longer have to think about things I do because I'm subconsciously have built it in through practice. And when you do that, you have more energy, as well as you have more fun at the thing that you're doing. And it's more impactful. Think about sales. If you keep thinking about the question that the person is answering, right? So you're asking them a question, hey, how many bedrooms? They say 4. And as they're answering it, if you're thinking about the next question to ask, you're losing. If you are somebody who's thinking about the next question to ask while your client is answering your current question, you are losing. What needs to happen is you need to listen to understand and not listen to respond. And the only way that you can actually do that is to practice enough to know that their current answer holds your next question. I need to say it again. Stop worrying about the next question to ask while your client is answering your current question. Because your next question to ask is simply being developed in their current answer. Listen to understand. Stop listening to respond. And you get really good at this when you practice. When you embody, when you ingrain yourself in the work before the work. So let's wrap this call up here. Let's wrap this podcast up, because I got a date with a beautiful girl, and she's 5.5, and I'm excited, but I also want you to get to it today. So let's recap here, okay? Number 1, Tom Brady, 35 plus records. 35 plus records all came because of the work he had put in prior, right? So what are you going to do differently? When you get off this podcast and you're amped and you're excited, what are you going to do differently? Right? Are you gonna practice once a week? Are you going to practice twice a week? 3, 4, 5? Like, what's your standard? What's your standard? So when you get out of this call, you better have an amount of time that you're going to be practicing, have it in your calendar, and it doesn't matter who's practicing with you. It doesn't matter who's around you. You get it done. Number 2 is that you need to understand, to be the GOAT, to be the greatest of all time, you need to have grit, ownership, awareness, and training. That is how you become the greatest of all time. So guys, who here wants to increase their pay? Let's go. You want to increase your pay? Increase your role play. If you want to increase your pay, increase your role play. It's plain and simple. There's so much money to be made, and it's going to go to the person and the people that put a high emphasis on skill set and mindset training. That's a fact. And for those of you that are in real estate that are listening to us, which a lot of my listeners are, real estate was easy the last 2 years. And when it's easy, it creates weak agents. Just being honest, not calling anybody out unless you feel that. Easy business creates weak agents. Everybody was buying, everybody was selling. It was easy. But yet there's still a massive amount of closings that are still happening in today's market. And the people that are going to win are the people that emphasize training, that emphasize skill set, emphasize mindset, dedication as much as possible. So weak people come from easy businesses. Weak agents come from easy business. In the last 2 years, it was easy business. So therefore, it created a weak agent out of you. Once you realize that there needs to be a high and intentional dedication and discipline and focus on mindset and skill set training, you will win big time, bigger than you ever won before, bigger than you've ever won before. And once you make that a priority and make that the standard, the results are the byproduct. So you want the results? Then start there. All right, guys, I'm wrapping up here. I hope that this episode hits you where it needed to hit you. Also, by the way, I almost forgot. We're having a national call night. Boop, boop. February 23rd is a free virtual national call night where I'll do a 30-minute sales training. We're going to dial your leads for an hour, and then we're going to go ahead and give out prizes for the top people. So last time, our winner, he actually hit me up. You go to my Instagram, at @RealJohnMarrone. You can see it in the comments. He closed 10 deals from that night. He set like 6 appointments and had other conversations. 10 deals he closed since our last one. And that was in September. So there's gold here, guys. Come hang out and look, whether it's you, your team, whether it's people that, you want to go ahead and build relationships with, invite everybody. But how do you get to it? Go ahead and 2 ways. One is just DM me on Instagram. I'll send you the link, sign up. It's free, right? Like, just do it. If you are looking to make more money and you want to have a cool environment, you get some training along the way, just do it. February 23rd, 6 o'clock Central Time. DM me on social media, at @RealJohnMarrone, at @RealJohnMarrone. The second way that you could do that is if you go ahead and if you're on my Facebook, John Marrone, I don't have any friends acceptance left. I'm at 5,000 is my max. You can message me on there too, depending on where you follow me. But ideally, hit me up in the DMs. I'll send you a link. February 23rd, we got a national call night, 30 minutes of training, an hour of dialing, cash, prizes, free coaching that's going to be given out to some winners. But most importantly, some time for you to increase your skill sets, be in an environment that's conducive to what you said you want, and have some fun along the way. So get you and your team involved. And as always, if you like today's episode, share this bad boy out. Share it out. Tag me on social, at @RealJohnMarrone. I said it about 5 times already, but tag me on social. I'll share it. I'll reshare it. And then also share this with somebody you know can get value from it. Share this with somebody that you know can get value from the understanding of how to be the GOAT, the understanding of how to go ahead and make more money, right? So if you have any questions, you know where to find me. I hope this brought massive value to you today. I hope to see you February 23rd, and obviously I hope to see you on our next podcast. I appreciate everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. Go crush it. And if you need me, you know where to find me. Go get it.